Marcus Aurelius' philosophy teacher was this guy named Junius Rusticus, who, when Marcus Aurelius becomes emperor, he appoints him to be, basically, he's the sort of chief judge / mayor of Rome. And there's this dispute between these philosophers. And so into his courtroom comes this guy named Justin, a.k.a. Justin Martyr.
Yep.
And so Roman law says you can only worship the Roman gods. And he gives Junius Rusticus gives Justin chance after chance to basically deny Jesus or to deny the Christian God, and he refuses to. And he says, do you think that if I have you scourged and beheaded, you will ascend to heaven? And Justin says, yes, I do. Wow. And then he says, so let it be done. Really? And he orders it. And so this is one of the many persecutions between the Stoics and the Christians. But I think it's this fascinating example of this guy who is this practitioner of this philosophy, of which one of the core virtues is justice, who talks about kindness and mercy and all these things. Seneca writes this essay, which I want to talk to you about clemency. And yet he is sort of imprisoned by the law, and he can't step outside it. And he ends up, exerting the full force of the Roman state on this utterly harmless individual. And it's a sort of a stain on the Stoic legacy forever.
Well, you had Plato and Socrates and their great dialogue also.
Mm-hmm.
But, your first book had nothing to do with Stoicism.
That's right.
So I don't know how the hell this even happened.
Well, that's what I wanted to write about, but my job was in marketing.
You were absolutely in a period of transition.
Yes.
And I was just an old judge just sending people to jail, and writing this little stupid book, which still, I get royalties. People like that book.
What does it feel like to send someone to jail?
Well, I can give you an actual experience if you're interested in doing that, because when you come to court, I'm going to bring you down to the marshal's office where we had jail cells, and I'm going to show you the cells. We're going to even have a marshal put cuffs on you so you get the feel of what it's like.
Okay.
But, I get that question asked a lot, and I feel okay about it because, I believe in the whole principle of lenity. I don't know whether it's a Stoic principle or not.
What is that?
If you have a doubt,
Oh.
Be lenient because you're dealing with somebody's life.
Yes.
And if you're in doubt, just, weigh it in favor of less jail rather than more jail.
Yes.
So I feel okay about that. And but it's the most challenging and the most important part of being a judge. The Supreme Court judges don't do it.
Yeah.
The Circuit Court judges do it. The District Court judges are the sentencing judges. They have enormous discretion. And it ranges all over the place. Depends upon who the judge is, their background, everything else like that. But everyone will tell you it's the most awesome responsibility you can have if you're a reasonably sensitive human being dealing with the liberty of a person's life. So a doctor deals with, how long you're going to live. But we deal with the quality of a person's life while they're alive, and you do as well.
Yeah.
The hardest sentences, believe it or not, are not the mafiosi, are not the ones who have killed people, not 10 years, 9 years, 11 years, 12 years. It's whether you're going to put anybody in jail at all who's never been in jail for 6 months,
right,
for a year, for 2 years. That person is not a violent person, but he's committed a fraud or something that really probably warrants him going to jail. We have some candidates out there in the political world today, right?
Yeah.
We have a mayor right now under indictment. To put Trump in jail for that crime is not just an automatic type of thing.
Yes.
And those are the toughest sentences to give a lawful citizen who's never done anything wrong otherwise, who's had this aberrational experience in his life in a nonviolent crime, to give that person a taste of jail or not. Those are the hardest sentences.
And I imagine there's this, when you have had to put people away for such an enormous amount of time, to not punish someone at all can feel unfair. So like you have this sense of knowing that you've had to punish certain crimes very severely.
Yeah.
And then you have someone that maybe you feel sorry for, or you want to be lenient to, but there's a fairness and equity that you have to consider.
Everyone asks these questions. So I had one pretty profound interview. I don't know whether you know the gist. This guy Mike Pesca has a big podcast in New York. I was just sent it to you. We had long interviews, and he asked me all these questions too. He's a bright guy. You would like him. I've had some interesting interviews already. But after a while, you develop, in a strange way, a comfort level, as odd as that may sound.
Yeah.
Because you develop, hopefully, a mature sense and this balance of decency and humanity that you apply to this chore that you have. But to this day, I don't stay awake, because if I have a doubt, I always, resolve the doubt to give a person less jail time than more jail time. So I can sleep okay, except when I don't have a cold and my wife gets me. Like right now, I'm still fighting this cold.
Well, I was thinking about the timelessness of those dilemmas because, we were just talking about some Stoic examples, but I was writing about Montaigne, the French thinker and essayist, and he has this observation in one of his essays because he was a lawyer, and it's fascinating how many people have been lawyers over the centuries. And he was talking about this judge.
You know how many lawyers we have in the United States?
How many?
140 million.
Wow. He was saying that he watched this judge sentence someone to jail or imprisonment or whatever the punishment was at that time for adultery, as he was receiving a note from his mistress. He was fascinated at the ability of humans to compartmentalize, to punish someone for something that they themselves were actively engaged in.
Yeah, we have a lot of examples. The hypocrisy in our country is enormous.
Yeah.
So people want to ask me first off about sentencing. That seems to be what's primarily on the mind of people. Well, this book is all about sentencing.
Yes.
And, as you know, this is a revolutionary statute that was passed, about the First Step Act.
Mm-hmm. And
you know that the problem we have in our country is mass incarceration.
Yes.
And I think you know
more than
about
any
that.
other country in the world, right?
Well, it's in the book. 4% of the world's population, 22% of its prisoners. We have a hard time really saying we're a civilized society.
Yeah.
We have no problem putting people in jail.
Yes.
We have a hard time letting them out of jail. So the whole incredible statute that was enacted when it was not a political year.
Yeah.
Now this is going through a different type of dynamic right now.
Yeah.
Was a bipartisan piece of legislation signed off by Trump.
Yeah.
Contrary to basically his past,
Sure.
reputation. Signed off by Harris, who was a senator.
Yep.
And 87 other senators. So this was an incredible piece of bipartisan legislation during a time when Congress was divided, still is, and it was just an anachronistic thing that happened. But conservative, liberal, Republican, Democrat all believe we have to attack our mass incarceration problem. Yeah. Economically, it's $80 billion a year. But from a humane point of view, these people are getting old. They're dying in jail. They're no longer threats. They can't even walk. They can't even talk. They're in worse shape than I'm in. So the statute is really the most revolutionary thing that I've experienced as a judge, because it gives me the discretion to reconsider a previously imposed sentence and to change it.
And this isn't, for people who don't understand, this isn't something like the Innocence Project that's clearing necessarily innocent people or the wrongfully committed. It's saying, hey, you may have done the crime,
Correct.
You may have deserved a good chunk of time, but we're now, with the perspective of time and the changes in
Things
society, able to reconsider.
Yeah, and also, I've had a couple of good articles. I know when I sent it to you. Adam Liptak wrote a nice article on the Times.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether you know John J. Lennon. He's the renowned prison journalist. He's in jail.
Oh.
And he is a highly regarded author. And he's written book reviews for the Times, and he's gotten all sorts of awards. So he wrote a review last week in the Washington Post about the book also. And they both talk about the humanity of it all, and that this is a revolutionary concept that's anathema, basically, to our criminal mindset in our country. You do the crime, do the time, but all that type of stuff. These sound bites, all that stuff. We write about all of that, right?
Well, and politically and culturally, it's such a dangerous issue because the upside is really only experienced by the prisoner and their family. And the downside, if they commit some other heinous crime, it's politically dangerous to people who, the judge who lets them out,
right.
the politicians who supported it. And so it's easier to lock someone away and lose the key than it is to reconsider and rethink.